Hi, my name is Katherine Quinn, and I am the International Policy Lead at the University of Cambridge Institute for Sustainability Leadership, or CISL. I'm going to talk to you today about energy subsidies, and in particular CISL's position on why we should move away from fossil fuel subsidies and instead invest our money in renewable subsidies. So, 3 facts to know before we dive into the details. Firstly, fossil fuels are the main contributor to climate change. Burning fossil fuels releases greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, which causes global warming. Secondly, we're on a bad trajectory in terms of managing climate change. We have committed to keeping global warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius under the Paris Agreement, but we're currently on track for 3 degrees, which would be catastrophic for humanity and for the planet. And thirdly, a huge amount of fossil fuel subsidies remain in place. So for example, in 2022, there were $7 trillion worth of fossil fuel subsidies in place globally, which is around 7.1% of global GDP. So because we're on this bad trajectory of 3 degrees of warming, we need to be looking at levers and measures that we can take to change this trajectory, basically, and improve our ways of tackling climate change. And one key lever that we can engage with is to remove fossil fuel subsidies and instead redirect them towards renewables. So 3 reasons why we should redirect these subsidies towards renewables. Firstly, renewables help us tackle climate change and broader environmental issues. So not only are they low emission or no emission technologies for the most part, they also improve other environmental issues like pollution. So we've all seen pictures of power plants with a big kind of smog in the surrounding environment. Ordinarily, there aren't these types of issues associated with renewables. Secondly, renewables are most often the same price or cheaper than fossil fuels, and they're also not subject to the same market fluctuations that oil and gas are subject to. And thirdly, renewables are just as reliable as oil and gas. So there's a lot of misconceptions out there in the community about this, that, solar only produces energy when the sun's shining. This is not true. With the right mix of technologies and storage, renewables are extremely reliable. So when you think about this, it's interesting to consider why fossil fuel subsidies remain in place. If we have this alternative technology that seems to be reliable, cheap, better for the environment, why do fossil fuel subsidies remain in place globally? So the first reason can just be because they've been in place for a long time. So we need to be asking governments to change these policies and to take the measures to reform their laws, go through legislative processes, reshape economic models to make sure that they're removing fossil fuel subsidies. And that takes advocacy from communities, from local governments. Another consideration that's very important is that fossil fuel subsidies remain in place in some places because of concerns about people losing their jobs, and also because power generation is a crucial way of lifting communities out of poverty. So in particular in the developing world, having access to power is a really important way to improve people's lives, and a lot of developing countries think it's easier or better to implement fossil fuels than renewables. So to tackle these 2 things, we need to be reskilling workers and making sure that people have other forms of secure work that they can go into, and also making sure we're giving developing countries access to renewables technology instead of oil and gas. And the third reason why fossil fuel subsidies remain in place, and perhaps the most important reason, is because of decades of lobbying and disinformation from fossil fuel companies. Fossil fuel companies are very big and rich and powerful, and we really need to scrutinize the information that we're getting in the media and from advertising, and making sure we're checking it against reliable and science-based sources. Because it's really important that we don't allow these big companies to put profits ahead of our safety as humanity and the future of our planet. I hope that helps for your discussions. Thanks, everyone.